Greetings. Hey, it's Susie. I wanted to share another piece of information about the Akashic Records. I know that I'm getting ready to get my book out, and so I've got five different case studies related to my work as an Akashic reader, and I wanted just to give you kind of just like a little bit of a sneak peek here about some of the things that are going to be mentioned here, and these are going to just case studies. One of them, my first one, is what I call inner earth dwellers resurfacing. And this one was a complete visual experience. And when I do my Akashic reading, it is in a way that I'm like presently there. So whatever time frame or location I'm um, shifting into that location. So that's one of them is the inner earth dwellers as they're resurfacing. And so I think in some of the ancient cultures or prehistoric cultures, they're saying some of those people, my glasses keep getting funny. Some of them so that in some of the other cultures that the inhabitants left, but there was no sign, no skeletal remains, that they just vanished. So this is some information related to that as far as the inner earth dwellers resurfacing. The second one is another case study, and this was related to a person who might have either been in a dying process or maybe astral projecting towards the light, but it is the process of leaving the physical body and moving through that experience and actually being one with the light. And so there's a lot of visual on that, and it's really that was a really interesting one, and it was really fun to um, be a receiver of that information about what it felt like to move out of the body and be completely in the light. The third one is this was another case study with somebody else, and this one was um, about a home in the land. And the question was like, what was she supposed to be doing for work? And this one was interesting because I went to the location where the information was stored, and there were two elements which I had never. Every time I have these experiences, like I can't even say I've had them before, so everyone is like so new. But the land itself was holding a vibration of remembrance for her, and then the second thing was the house itself was holding some sort of memory there, and so. For me, as being the reader, I could actually see that vibration. It was almost like the house was levitating just above the ground because the ground itself had got some stored memory there as well. And so I'm going to become some snippets here about some of these readings without getting into too much detail. Another one was I went to a client's house to do a reading, and um, she just said she just it doesn't think she's very in touch with other experiences and other things. And I said, well, you might. Yeah, I'm also a real estate broker, so I said, would you mind if I look around your house? And she's like, sure. So I did, and it's like, man, she's totally living in all these different realities because her house is like a living photo album of a lifetime after a lifetime after a lifetime. And so we went through a bunch of questions, and I finally asked her, so why don't we just do a question where we look at you know one of the objects in your house because there were like totally tons. And she said, well, I have one in my mind, and it's a candlestick. Let me go get it. And I said, no, you don't need to go get it for me. I've already got the information. So that was really an interesting approach, was to take an object. I did not need to see it, but I immediately was downloaded information and taken to a place in another lifetime where she was like a little boy on some high plains, and that wooden candlestick was something that that boy did for fun, was to get out and explore um, and create. And then I've got my fifth one here, and there's actually two under here. This is in ancient Egypt. One of my people that came to me for a 6-week series on learning how to be an Akashic reader, one of her experiences that came up was that she was, I call it a boy girl handmaiden or maid. But this was a person at that time that was actually a female, young female, but she portrayed herself as a boy, and that maybe was safer. There was a reason for that, and so that person, that boy girl, um, was really kind of cool because the hands were like this, and then there was these linen towels over it, and then she was sitting in a group in the chambers below the pyramid, and then there were these beautiful, huge beings that were transmitting everything through telepathy. That was kind of groovy, and I got to stand right next to this child, boy girl child, that was holding the linen claws and be in the energy of that telepathic information. And then the next one was another one, ancient Egypt, and it was basically somebody that was going and my fingers could feel it, but touching the wall of the hieroglyphics. And what I learned was that the hieroglyphics, the way I interpret it, was that they were read from the right to the left. And it was weird because you could see all the way down. There was like no end in sight to the story or to the message on the hieroglyphics. Anyway, so that's kind of what's coming up with the book, and that's what's coming up with some of the case studies I've done. And I love working with people and really diving deep because as they bring questions to the work, then I kind of get to go to some cool places. I get to help another person, and then I get to, when allowed, use the case studies and write them down and share them with others because it's great information for all of us. Anywho, that's all I got. So. Yay, thank you for being here and thank you for supporting my beautiful journey of writing and creating and um, giving my gifts out into the world, just like I know you do too. Have a great day. May you be blessed.